Welcome to a busted play, an illegal use of hands to the face short.
Jake, who are your top five fantasy tight ends for the 2021 NFL season?
Well, first off, I'd want to give an honorable mention to T.J. Hawkinson. If a certain man by the name of Pitts was not drafted this offseason, he'd probably be in the top five for me, but just outside of it. Now let's get into the top five. At five, I've got Mike Gesicki. Very, very underappreciated tight end. Great weapon. Reason he's at five for me is because he is just so like in a big pile of weapons down there in Miami. Good weapons? Big pile of weapons though. He is the best of those weapons. Will he be used like he's the best of those weapons though? That's the real question. I don't think he will be because he still wasn't last year, and they drafted another tight end uh in the draft because they apparently don't think he is a I think if he got the same amount of targets that a guy like Darren Waller gets, he could be giving Darren Waller run for his money for like number three tight end.
Could you
Yes.
imagine? Could you imagine a world where Miami is like, we don't want to pay you, and he comes to Buffalo? Oh my gosh, dream scenario. Any any
That's
any fans of any team would probably love to pick up a Mike Gesicki, but yeah, keep
hmm
going. Sorry.
But Mike Gesicki at five. And then that guy that I mentioned, the rookie, Kyle Pitts, I got him at four. Now with Julio gone, he's going to be the number two weapon in Atlanta, maybe even the number one, depending on how Arthur Smith wants to do it. Uh, with Calvin Ridley being the obvious number one receiver, him being the second weapon to be used. I am very excited to see Kyle Pitts play. He was a great talent to watch his film for college. Uh, Arthur Smith, he was a smart guy for the Titans, so I can't wait to see how he uses him. And then I think these next three, kind of in the order is how you would rank them. For well, obviously top number one tight end, one and two there is kind of iffy, but the consensus number three tight end in the NFL, I don't think anyone is going to argue that at the moment it's Darren Waller, and he's going to be that in fantasy too. Uh, love Darren Waller, very underappreciated. All that I can think of when I think of Darren Waller, the first thing I think of is our history teacher drafted him to his fantasy team. And what did you say to him when he drafted Darren Waller to his fantasy
I
team? Do you
said,
remember?
I said, did you just pick him because you liked him on Hard Knocks? That's what I said.
That's the first thing I think of when I think of Darren Waller, and he has become a top three tight end in the NFL. And his production, I mean, he is the number one guy for the Raiders. But even with the volume of targets that he gets, he's still very, very, very close, but not quite at the level yet of the next two guys. At number two, I got your guy George Kittle, uh, coming off an injury-plagued season last season. Going to be interesting what he does now, especially if there's QB turnover at some point in the season. Uh, Again, just such a weapon. He's so good. They use him in a lot of different ways, but not anywhere close to how much the number one guy gets used. It's Travis Kelce. We talked about this in our receiver episode for fantasy, and how Tyreek Hill is Mahomes' number one receiver, wide receiver, but his number one receiver, ball catcher, is Travis Kelce. Just the frequency he goes to him. I mean, he was almost number one in the league in receiving yards. If they didn't sit him out week 17, he probably passes Stephon Diggs on that. And that would have been insane for a tight end to lead the league in receiving yards, and very, very possible this upcoming season for him to do just that if his frequency of getting used is the same. So that's my top five. What about you?
Yeah, I'll say I'm probably a little under just Travis Kelce. I'm probably not giving him enough credit. I'll already say that beforehand. But also, I like that you mentioned T.J. Hawkinson. He's a guy I forget about just because I don't know why he just passes up in my mind. Like I don't remember him, but he should be getting utilized a lot more now in Detroit, considering the receiving core isn't what it was before, and they have a head coach that's a former tight end coach, and should value a tight end pretty highly. And he's a pretty good player, so I like you calling that out because I didn't even think of bringing him up, and I should have. So that's a good point you made there. The other guys I have in my honorable mentions, I mean, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are both interesting, but obviously because they're going to be splitting time, there's no way that they're going to be top 5 fantasy tight ends. If one of them is, that will be insane. I can't imagine what the Patriots did with that then. Mark Andrews is outside of my top 5 fantasy tight ends. That's only because I think the Ravens are going to try not change their entire scheme, but change their passing scheme to get a little bit more, get the receivers involved a little more, and that'll just push Mark Andrews down just enough to make it so that he isn't able to crack the top 5 for tight ends. And also, I said Gesicki. I just don't know if Tua will get him the ball enough. I really don't know if Tua will get him the ball enough. My number 5 guy is Kyle Pitts, though. I really think that he's definitely an insane talent, and if you draft him as high as they did, you have to get him the ball. And that new head coach they got there loves using tight ends in his passing game, even like screen game and stuff like that. So he should get free receptions just from that, like not even need to get down the field to get open to get free yardage off that. That's great. He should be able to produce really well for them, and he's an insane talent, so I don't know why he wouldn't. Number 4 for me, I don't know if this guy's a little surprising, but kind of been like turning up the past few years and been on a really good upward trajectory. Robert Tonyan from Green Bay, I really like him, and even if Jordan Love gets in, I don't know if I love enough of the receivers on that team to say that a ton of those guys would pull passes away from him. Obviously, they're still going to try to get the ball to Devontae Adams, but I feel like number 2 wise, especially if they go like more play action and stuff like that, because they're trying to make it easier on somebody like Jordan Love if he's starting or if Rodgers is still playing. Either way, it should be that if Love's playing, the help is that the play action game means that Tonyan can sneak out easier and potentially get down the field more in some of his routes because he can run some deep crossers and things like that. And then if Rodgers is still in the game, I think they'll just be straight up throwing the ball more, so that should get him more involved. So we'll see if that stuff comes to fruition, and if Robert Tonyan can actually be the number 4 tight end in fantasy in the league. Then for me, for a tie at number 2, man, I guess I didn't realize how many yards Travis Kelce had last year. I really underestimate him. It's just that insane. That's how insane the Chiefs' offense is. But at a tie for number 2, I have Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. I think that both of them are about even, because of the fact that I think Darren Waller is just has a little bit more speed, which makes him a slightly more impressive candidate. But obviously, I think Kelce is in the better offense overall, so that should help him produce at a very high level. I just don't know. I don't know if he'll still be the favorite target of Mahomes. He may or may not be. I think the only guy that's really arguing with him is probably Tyreek Hill to take that number 1 role from him. But we'll just see how much they actually get the ball if they don't change anything up, though. I mean, obviously, he's still a great option. And any of these 3 top guys, I'm not going to argue with if you pick any of them first. It's really kind of just up to you. But the one guy that's my favorite that I have the most fun with is obviously George Kittle, just because, how can you not enjoy that guy? That guy is an awesome human being. He's just so much fun blocking, running down the field, anything like that. The stuff I come back to with him is the fact him just off like their play action that they run in San Francisco, off their outside zones. He can get really deep and behind the defense, and that can cause a lot of trouble. And even I remember a few years back, him just like lining up at and catching like short passes, like less than 10 yards down the field, and just making people break down and try to tackle him, and they just have no chance to tackle him because he's bigger, faster, stronger, everything, and then he's fast enough in the open field that you're not going to catch him from behind. Now they have 2 quarterbacks in San Francisco that should be playing well. As long as Kittle stays healthy and only one of those 2 quarterbacks is healthy, I think he's a huge threat. And even though I was kind of questioning myself with Kelce and Waller, I really do like Kittle more than Kelce, just because I feel like he's more of a focal point for that offense. Honestly, I feel like he's obviously the number 1 where you could go many other ways on the Kansas City offense.
I think both Kittle and Kelce are the focal points of, well, obviously, Mahomes is the focal point of that offense, but Kelce, weapons-wise, they're both the focal points of them. To be honest, I have Kittle at 2, kind of the same reason. I can't remember your order of wide receivers, but you had another guy outside of your top 5 or top 3 or something like that out of spite. I mean, it's not his injuries. I mean, you can't get mad at those. But I drafted Kittle in the second round last year in fantasy, and I just can't give him that one spot after what he did to me. I would have won the championship if he didn't get hurt.
Tough stuff. Tough stuff. That's fair. That's fair though. I get it. It's kind of hard to not get mad at a player. Sorry if any players are watching. We're not trying to be mean. You know, we're just selfish people like everybody in the world.
Yes.
So,
Tommy Sweeney, if you are watching, I'm sorry we didn't talk about you.
Lee Smith too.
Yeah,
who else?
Lee
Tim Tebow. Tim
talk
Tebow.
about a top
I
5
was-
option in Lee Smith.
I was thinking about mentioning Tim Tebow, but I held myself off.
Sneaky good.
Hey, he could be the new Taysom if he gets his goal line rushing packages.
Yeah, he could be the interesting one. Toss him in there at the flex, and he's still getting snaps at QB all over the place. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so funny. All right. You all set? I'm good.
Yeah, I think we can cut it here.